In today's video, we're going to be ranking the main characters of Pokemon Adventures on a tier list. But we're not going to be ranking them based off individual skill or how well they can do in a battle. Instead, we're going to be ranking them based on their groups, or region to be specific. It's cool doing a single ranking, but I want to rank these guys based on how much of a bond they have with each other, how much they interact with each other, and their best moments together. So let's get straight into it. For our only group in D tier, we have the Unova gang, which is kind of ironic considering how much I like these guys. Black and White are a perfect pair and would easily be an S tier, but by adding Blake and Whitley to the situation, it brings them all the way down to the D tier. Think of it as a pair and two separate people. Blake is practically an emotionless machine, Whitley is a timid and anxious girl who's part of Team Plasma, Black's a guy who shouts a lot and is obsessed with winning the Pokemon League, and White's just a pretty regular person. When they initially meet, things start off kind of rocky, and they only team up to save the world. After that, they all split up as if nothing happened. Blake goes incognito, Whitley leaves with N, and Black and White just chill in Unova. The best moment I could say for these guys would have to be when they agree to work together, as it honestly just looks really cool seeing Black and White 2 collide for the first time outside of Masters. But overall, these guys can barely be considered a group. Now we jump all the way to the C tier, with our first group being the Hoenn Dex holders. This one may be a bit controversial, seeing as the Hoenn Dex holders are fan favorites, but remember, we're talking about groups here. This trio initially started off as a duo with Ruby and Sapphire, and although these two have good chemistry, they too tend to have their fair bits of arguments and fights. But overall, they're pretty jolly with each other. Then when Emerald gets added to the mix, he starts off hating the two, and wanting absolutely nothing to do with their group, but he ends up coming around later on. The main strength of this trio is how they eventually all open up to each other about their flaws and concerns, but outside of these great emotional scenes, we don't actually get to see them being a trio all that much, since Emerald joined the gang late so he had less time to spend with them. And in the Oras arc, Ruby tries to fly things solo. And because of all this, I have to rank this trio quite low. In terms of my favourite moment of their group, I'd have to say it's when they initially meet, for the sole reason being it was just funny to see. Another group of Dex holders that are fan favourites but are ranked quite low are the Kanto gang. This group started off as a trio with the Pallet Town OGs, Red, Blue and Green, but they got joined by Yellow. Even if I wanted to say these guys got ranked lower because of a new addition in Yellow, the honest truth is that the OG trio were never really much friends. Instead, they were more rivals or acquaintances with mutual benefit. In the Yellow arc, these guys become much more friendlier, albeit off screen, with both Blue and Green doing their best to try find Red. And as I mentioned, Yellow's added to the group. And by the Gold, Silver and Crystal arc, it's believable for the four of them to be a close quartet. But things started going kind of south from there, with the Fire Red and Leaf Green arc kind of leaving Yellow out of the loop until the end. At this point of the story, it wasn't really clear if Yellow was a Dex holder or not, considering the fact that she didn't have a Pokédex. However, things get even worse, as after this arc, Yellow gets completely left behind, with both Red and Green appearing in Oras and Blue appearing in X and Y. But Yellow, I don't even really know what she was doing. All we can assume is she was just sleeping, which really sucks as this quartet had perfect links between each other. But if one person's getting left behind, then the whole group is going back. My favourite moment for these guys is when Yellow received her Pokédex from Red and the gang congratulates her. Surprisingly, despite how much I rag on these two, we have the Alola duo for our first B tiers. And that's for the very simple reason being, there's only two of them. Although the Sun and Moon arcs were pretty rushed in my opinion, Sun and Moon as a duo were pretty interesting to see, as they were very different from each other. You know, the whole opposite attracts things. These two spent a lot of their Alola journey together and managed to befriend each other through Sun getting constantly injured and Moon being able to nurse him up. On a kind of unrelated note, I like how professional these guys are, with Sun calling Moon Miss and Moon calling Sun Courier, cause although they may be business minded, deep down they're truly friends. If I had to pick a favourite moment for these guys, I'd probably go with just seeing them in Ultra Space, which is kind of weird considering they were trapped there for like half a year, but the fact that they were there together made them definitely good friends. For our next B tier group, we have another duo being X and Y of Kalos. These guys are pretty cool as a duo, since they're kind of similar but also different. Due to their situation, they're both responsible and dependable as leaders of their group, with X being the one to protect them from weird adults and Y being the one to lead them through Kalos. They're also both able to help each other and pick up each other's slack when they have their flaws. I don't really have much to say about them other than the fact that they're both really cool and work well together. The only reason why I haven't actually ranked them higher is because the Kalos duo is meant to actually be the Kalos gang, with Trevor, Shauna and Tierna, but those guys aren't Dex holders so they don't count for this. My favorite moment featuring these two is at the end of the arc when X thanks Y for everything. These two are meant to be childhood friends and you can really tell that's the case. Both of them know each other really well and help them grow as people. For our final B tier group, we have the Johto trio, or the Joe trio for short. These guys, despite not spending the entirety of their journey together, feel like a good group of friends. If it were the only original arcs, these guys would have probably been in the C tier. After all, Crystal got introduced too late and Gold and Silver were full-blown rivals rather than friends. But once everything blows over and the Heart Gold and Soul Silver chapter happens, these guys become way more chill with each other. And we get to see great interactions between Silver and Chris, where she makes sure he knows that they're friends and can rely on each other. Especially when you consider that he went off alone in the Fire Red and Leaf Green chapter. And later, Gold gets interactions with both of them as well. And they all team up at the end of a story, and it's just really nice to see. My favorite moments with these guys is when they meet up in the Sinjo ruins and when Gold thanks them for everything he's seen on his journey. Now our first and only A tier group is very shockingly the Galar duo. Once again, these two greatly suffered from having a rushed arc but benefited from being a duo. When we first see these two, they were already friends. As a year before the arc began, they met in the Slumbering Weald and promised to work together to achieve their goals. A simple premise that built an amazing duo. Casey would always struggle to make friends when she was younger due to her loud voice, but with Henry's patience, they got along just fine. And Henry can come across as heartless and uncaring due to his bluntness and extreme obsession with Pokemon tools, but Casey's cheery personality lets her understand that he doesn't mean any harm and probably can't control it. The best thing about these two is that they just genuinely feel like real friends. Dex holders don't usually travel in a group, but when they do, it works really well. Case in point, these two. My favorite moment for these two would have to be when they both apologize to each other at the Isle of Armor. And now for the only group in S tier, and in my opinion, the best group by far of all Dex holders. It is the Sinnoh Dex holders. These three in my opinion are the definition of a perfect trio that feels like friends and have a super strong bond. When we first meet these guys, Pearl and Diamond are already friends, but Platinum is the one joining them. With the princess like Platinum thinking the duo were just her bodyguards, and Diamond and Pearl thinking that she was just meant to be their tour guide. On the travels through the Sinnoh region, we see these guys go from strictly business and Platinum hating commoners to actual friends by helping each other out and learning more about each other's strengths and flaws, such as how Pearl helps Platinum with her gym battles. When the truth comes out, they do go through a small rut, but end up coming together stronger as a result. These three are so in sync with each other that they only had 2 Pokemon while traveling together, as 2 times 3 is 6, which makes a full party. And if that ain't a sign for perfect trio, then I don't know what is. And now to completely counter all the points I've been saying this whole video. These guys do have times where they split up and don't stay together. The first time being when they have to do solo trading to protect the lakes, and the second time being when Platinum had to leave for the Battle Frontier. But in my opinion, these were fine, as they regrouped at the end of things and it made them stronger independently, so they don't have to rely on each other for everything. As for my favorite moment with these three, honestly, there's just way too many, so I'll go with the triple fist bump. And that's all Dex holders ranked by their groups. Scarlet and Violet haven't met each other yet, so of course they're not on this list. Do you agree with my rankings, or do you have another opinion? Whatever your answer is, let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, make sure to like and subscribe for more Pokemon manga content. With all that said and done, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.